Hello, my name is Jane Simmons. I'm a physiotherapist originally trained in physical education. This video has been produced in collaboration with Jan Hickman, a strategy manager for physical education and sport, to introduce physical education teachers to hypermobility and the hypermobility syndrome. I met with Jan and another physical education colleague and a group of school children with varying degrees of hypermobility to show them how to screen children and also how to work through some of the key management strategies. It's really important for physiotherapists and physical education teachers to work together in managing children and adolescents with hypermobility and the hypermobility syndrome, and where appropriate to involve the school nurse, classroom teachers, parents and doctors.
Hi Jane.
Hi Jane, great to see you again.
Yeah, and you too. Hi Jane. Yeah, and you.
Hypermobility, or generalised laxity, is a phenomenon where most of an individual's joints move beyond the normal limits. Hypermobility may be acquired through years of stretching and training and may also be the result of a genetic defect in collagen, a major component of connective tissue in the body, that is the skin, the ligaments, the tendons and even the bone. Hypermobility is more common in children than adults. It's more common in girls than in boys. It's more common in Asian and African populations than Caucasian groups. Hypermobility may be an asset for some performance activities requiring high levels of flexibility, such as ballet, dance, gymnastics, diving and trampolining. However, for some children with hypermobility, they are poorly coordinated. And for some children, in fact, hypermobility may be a liability and predispose them to injury, chronic pain, fatigue and even low bone density. This symptomatic hypermobility is known as the hypermobility syndrome, and that's why it's important for you to be able to recognise hypermobility and to help prevent and manage any potential problems. There are a number of ways to identify hypermobility. As a starting point, we recommend using the Baton scale, which is a 9-point scale where 1 point is awarded for each hypermobile joint. The cutoff for hypermobility in adults is generally considered to be 4 or more joints out of 9. However, in children, it's suggested that 5 or more is the most appropriate cutoff point. We took the children through each of the tests, starting with the elbows.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get all the girls and the boys to put their arms right out to the side like that. So can all of you now just arms out to the side, palms up. And the first one we're going to look at here is an example here of how that elbow is very hypermobile. Okay, so she's getting 1 point for each side, so she's got 2 points. Okay, so you can see here in this particular one, again, this could be considered hypermobile, and this one may be marginally hypermobile, but we're looking at sort of beyond about 10 degrees of hyperextension there. Okay, so this is probably within the normal range here.
Now, we saw in the video how some children had quite extreme hypermobility, while in others it was quite mild and presented only on one side of the body. 1 point is scored for each hypermobile elbow, which goes beyond 10 degrees of hyperextension. The next joints we tested are in the hand. We test the thumb and the little finger.
Okay, so the second test is to look at the hands. Okay, so what we're going to do now is get you to just take your thumbs down to your forearms. Okay, so and we can just have a look at this thumb. You can see how that's coming right down to there. Can you do that on your other hand? Yeah, and that one comes down as well. So she would get 1 point each for those thumbs as well. Okay, so the next test we do is with the little finger. Okay. All right. So what we do is ask the children to take their little finger back and see if it goes beyond 90 degrees here. So if we look at this one here, you can see on that side it's going up to 90 degrees. So we would call that hypermobile. And can you show us your other finger there? Again, she's there, so she'd get a point each for each of those.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to recap on what we have just seen. 1 point is scored for each thumb which can touch the wrist, and 1 point is scored for each little finger that can bend back beyond 90 degrees. The fourth area to test is the lumbar spine and hamstring flexibility, and this is done by asking the child to bend over and to try and get their hands flat on the floor.
Okay, so you can see here that Naomi can get her hands down flat on the floor, and on this side she's nearly there, okay, and on this one she's not able to. Okay, so we would give a point for this.
In the session with the teachers, we again observed a range of flexibility of the spine and hamstrings. 1 point is scored if the child can get their hands flat on the floor. The final part of the body to be tested as part of the Baton scale are the knees.
Okay, so these knees are hypermobile. In fact, that right one's more hypermobile than the left one.
It's going like
Back, that's right.
Like that.
So, so you're looking for that hyperextension there.
Just to note here, the knees are a common site of pain and injury in hypermobile children and adolescents. So having completed tests on 9 joints, it's now also important to look beyond the Baton scale and test hypermobility and laxity in other areas of the body which may have been missed by those tests. Hypermobile children often have flat feet and flexible shoulders and hips. And in some cases the joints can even dislocate or subluxate, and we'll see an example of this in one of the boys that we tested. The skin can also be an indication of connective tissue laxity, and this can be tested by drawing the skin up from the back of the hand.
Okay, so you can see here, with this one here, you can see that her arch has really come down quite low. Okay, and you can see here in this child who's not hypermobile, that actually, the arch is much raised up. She's got an arch there, she supports, that's right. Okay. But then in addition to this Tom can actually also subluxate his shoulder. Can you just show us that, Tom? Okay, you can see here actually it coming out of its joint there. So we obviously need to be very careful when he's doing things, particularly with his upper limbs.
Well, thanks, Jane. That was really interesting. But now we know what we're looking for. What can we do about it?
Jan has asked a really important question. What can you do about it? The key thing is to focus on stability and postural control, rather than the flexibility aspect of performance. And muscle strengthening is also really important. If children are poorly coordinated, tasks need to be broken down into simple steps. And it's really important to encourage physical activity and sports which enhance body awareness.
So what I thought we'd do now is just have a look at, working together with a child, how we might correct and work on control. And you can see here that this angle here is quite extreme hypermobility. She's not as hypermobile in other parts of the body, but definitely in this area she is. Yeah. So when we get her into 4-point kneeling, okay, this is a real opportunity for us as physiotherapists and PE teachers to be working together in correcting something like this in Victoria.
Very much so, because if I could see that in a gymnastics lesson, I'd be quite worried that Victoria was doing damage to her joints here.
Yeah, and she would be damaging at the back, as you say, perhaps impinging here, but also these ligaments and the tendons which run down the front here. So important for us.
We would make sure in any gymnastics action her fingers were pointing forwards.
Good.
But then again here, the joints are moving everywhere, Jane.
Right.
So what should we do here?
So again, is to soften the elbows, to get her to learn how to control that. And ways of doing that is just getting her to do just little bends on both sides. Yeah, and then just controlling that up, but without going into hyperextension.
Sure.
Just working through that range, getting her to learn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How to control.
Learn where the correct place is, the correct position.
Okay.
Yeah. It's quite easy to go into that, isn't
it? It
it
is.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So very important for them.
Thanks.
Okay.
So in summary, hypermobility is a relatively common phenomenon which may be a performance asset or may predispose to a range of health problems such as injury, pain, fatigue, poor coordination and low bone density. Physical education teachers have an important role to play as part of the health and exercise team in helping to identify children with hypermobility and the symptomatic hypermobility syndrome. And all this involves facilitating the child's health and performance potential through careful monitoring, appropriate advice and exercise, and liaising with health professionals. Now finally, I just want to highlight that additional information can be provided by the Hypermobility Syndrome Patient Association, the HMSA, and also the Ehlers-Danlos Support Group. Useful publications such as these have been produced and can be obtained from the HMSA. Details of how to contact this charity are at the end of the video. Thank you for your time, and we trust that this video will assist you in identifying and managing this very important child health issue.